Welcome to North Star Big Book. My name is Carly Israel, and I am your host. My sobriety date is January 27th, 1999, and I created this podcast simply to share the message of the Big Book. It completely changed my life. It always changes my life, and I hope it can help change yours. Hi, this is Carly, recovered alcoholic. Welcome to North Star Big Book. I am very excited today to have an old friend who I will introduce in a minute. We are doing a new series where I get to have people from all over the world talk about the Big Book and pages that they love and why they love them, and we're going to go back and forth and share. Will you introduce yourself, old friend?
Yes, I will. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Laura. What's your sobriety date?
It's July 1st, 1988.
Holy moly. So give us some math. How many years sober you were this summer?
32 years this July 1st. So 32 years and 2 months, let's say.
See, I love having women on here who have long-term sobriety. Laura was one of those women that I looked up to when I started coming around the rooms of AA, and I was crazy, as she can attest. And one of the things that I always think of when I see you, Laura, is what you were for me when I needed you so badly when we found out that Desi has some scary medical stuff. And
Yeah.
what I know for a fact is a couple of things. When we're going through something really hard sober, the only people you want to talk to is someone else who's gone through something similar. Because
walk the
nothing
path.
else, right? Nothing else that someone can say to me that doesn't have an idea of what I'm going through matters. Like,
right. Yeah.
I
Totally.
remember calling you. I remember being like, I need you to walk me through this. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
And
I'm
I
sure
remember
that
I remember I shared with you how difficult it was for me to have the same conception of my higher power once I found out my daughter was essentially terminally ill. And I mean, she is, even though she's doing great today, right? But it was like, how could God do this to my daughter? Like,
Well,
it just changed
first of all,
everything.
this podcast is explicit, so tell us the first word you said when they told us what she had.
I said, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yes.
No,
I
I didn't say what the fuck.
You
I
said,
said, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I remember you telling me that, and I was like, I love how real and honest you are. And I don't remember you saying what you just shared, that your concept changed, but I'm so glad you said that, because I was 11 years sober when we found out about his potentially fatal medical conditions. And
right.
What I know is that I went through about a year and a half of a really dark time between me and my higher power, where I had to find a new way to connect. Because there's things that are said in meetings that are well-meaning.
Like everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. 449 are now 417, which I give them 2 barrels up, right? So, and just to let you know where I got to with that is a couple of things. The woman who wrote the guy who wrote 449, okay, was sitting next to, I don't know if you know this story, was sitting next to a woman speaker whose teenage daughter was in, have you heard this story?
No.
Her teenage daughter was in AA. She was a mess. She was sober a couple of years, left an AA meeting and was raped in the parking lot and almost killed by another guy in AA. Her and another woman escaped the car, and after that, she couldn't stay sober for a really long time. And she wanted to punch everyone in the face that would say things like 449, acceptance, nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And she almost couldn't stay sober because when she believed, which is what happened to me, that this is AA, and if this is what AA believes, I'm not believing what AA believes, so I don't belong here anymore.
Right.
Sat next to the guy at a conference, and he said, people take that out of context. That's not what I meant.
Of course they do.
Right?
Yeah.
That's not what I meant at all. He knew her story. He said that nothing happens in God's world by mistake, and that the rape was not God's world. The cancer is not God's world. The sick, none of these things are what God wants. God is, like what Ro Eugene said, crying along with us as we're in pain and watching it. And I get chills thinking about it. And she was able to walk into a new place. And he said, really importantly, that is not our program, what you read on 449 or 417. That is
Right,
my
it's a story.
Right.
Right, it's a
His
story.
concept, his concept, which was no longer even his concept anymore, because it was his concept at the time he wrote it. And he said to her, like, you don't need to feel separate from AA anymore. AA is up to 164. And everything after that, not our program.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, and I also went through definitely one to 2 years of feeling very isolated because I didn't connect in the same way with what people were saying because my life had changed and I had to move into a new place with my higher power that I could live with. Like I didn't think God did this to my daughter. I just thought, how am I supposed to live with this? More importantly, this is not happening to me. It's happening to her.
That's so important that you're saying that.
Yeah, I mean, it's for real. I mean, this was not about me, but I knew that any grace that I had up until that point, which had carried me a long way, I had to reinvent that wheel or I was not going to stay because I was so angry and so full of fear. And the point I got to was that I see God as the soothing balm, that we can all get our relief from, no matter what happens. So I do believe that you just stay sober no matter what. I've always believed that. Or I should say I've come to believe that and I've re-experienced that and I've seen other people use that kind of grasp to that very same bottom line. But I mean, when something tragic like that happens, it redefines everything.
How can it not?
Right. I mean, I'd be like sleepwalking if I would say, "Oh yeah, I just."
Oh yeah, we're good. You know what I realized?
I was not good.
See, my problem was I knew that whatever I was facing, whatever way it went, and still goes for us, like you,
right.
I needed a different relationship with God because if it doesn't go the way I'd like it to go,
I still have to stay sober.
Right. I need to be able to go to that God and say, I need you to hold me and walk me through this and hold my hand. And the God that I used to believe in, where everything happened by God's plan, no longer was acceptable for me to go to with that pain.
Right. Yeah.
And you know what I found out in our book?
What's that?
Our book, this is what I did because I'm crazy. I went through the book literally word by word to make sure I could belong here again. And on page 93, from the beginning of 93, it took me until I got to 93. I just want to go there for real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, halfway down the first not real paragraph, he can choose any conception he likes, provided it makes sense to him. The main thing is that he be willing to believe in a power greater than himself and that he lived. And I was willing to do those two things. And what now made sense to me no longer did before. And I didn't have to believe what my mom believed about God or what AA believed about God. I only had to believe what was going to work for me. And I'm sure this happened to you. It gave me such a sensitivity chip and empathy chip for people that are going through hard things that I would be the person that would hold someone back from saying something stupid and be like, don't say that to them.
Right. We always, I mean, think about it. Everybody goes to a funeral or a sick friend and you're always like saying the stupidest shit.
Yeah.
That you think, because you haven't walked in those shoes, you think, well, this is kind and this makes sense. And oftentimes they're the most insensitive because you haven't walked in those shoes. So we go back to that. And this ties in perfectly to why our program works.
Yes.
Because we have walked in these shoes. So while we all have an individual fingerprint that is completely unique, the set of circumstances that we all share are that we are powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable and that we have to find a power that we can live with, that we pull ourselves out of this muck with. And we do, we use that grace of God, but I mean, we still have to physically do the work, And
if you didn't, I'm telling you this right now, Laura, specifically you, if you didn't stay here after you got that horrible news and do the work, I wouldn't have known where to go. And I wouldn't have been able to do my work because I would have been like, oh, I guess you don't stay here when that kind of thing happens.
Right. I mean, I've seen people who have, lost children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We both have. I mean,
tragic.
And they,
accidents.
I mean, I sat with Kevin Mooney and did his 11th step the morning he left the morgue. I mean, and now I say to my girls, I'm so sorry, you have no excuse for not doing your 11th step. Like, so sorry,
Right.
So let's get into the work. I literally could talk to you forever. So we're doing the doctor's opinion. Why did you choose the doctor's opinion?
Okay, so when I went to treatment, which was December 14th of 1987, and of course, I certainly did not identify as an alcoholic. But I was, in treatment, and they gave me a 24-hour day book and the big book. And like any good student would, as rattled as I was, I started to read the book from the beginning, instead of backwards, forwards. And so I read the forwards, and then I got to the doctor's opinion, which is our first chapter. And a couple of things stuck with me that, even though I did not stay sober right out of treatment, and I did not, that were mind-blowing to me, in that even in the midst of all my calamity and insanity and denial and rationalization, I could not unread these words.
You
right?
couldn't not know once you knew it. Once you saw that truth, because I believe in AA, alcoholics, we know the truth. We don't like to hear it, but once we know it,
but I kept hoping that first of all, like I said, I certainly was not an alcoholic. I had a problem with a specific substance more than anything else that made me go absolutely insane. But I drank the whole time.
Yeah.
And when they told me, you can't drink anymore, I was like, what? Of course I'm going to drink.
What do you mean I'm not going to drink?
Yeah, of course I'm going to smoke pot. I mean, I've been doing that since I was, 11
right,
years old.
Right, that's natural.
Right. So yeah, while I want to give up this thing, which is clearly, okay, I'll admit, clearly ruining my life, I don't want to give up these things. What are you talking about? And really, that was the hardest part for me, and why I didn't stay sober right out of treatment. Even though in treatment, I recognized, oh, I belong here. But this is so key to me. Like the first step, I could really only identify with that unmanageability. And the powerlessness part took about 2 years to really get. So first of all, I love how he introduces himself, and he's basically writing a foreword, if you will, for this book by his first letter, and he talks about Bill Wilson. Obviously,
who's he? For the people who are listening who don't know, who's he?
Oh, sorry, Dr. William Silkworth.
Yeah, so Dr. Silkworth.
William Duncan.
Yeah,
William Duncan.
I didn't know Duncan. So he gave us step one. So step one came from Dr. Silkworth.
He gave Bill the problem.
Yes.
Yep.
Because we didn't know how to explain it.
Right, and he was convinced, because he treated, like they say in his lifetime, he treated over 40,000 alcoholics. But what I just found out, because I did a little Google research, is that Towns Hospital, I always thought it was just a regular hospital. It was not. It was a treatment center, if you will.
For alcohol and drug rehabilitation.
Yes, and they put people through the puke and purge method. I mean, we're talking dark ages here. Giving them the belladonna treatment, which was nightshade and strychnine. And I mean, it's horrible if you read.
Well, alcoholics were locked up for alcoholic insanity. We would have been locked up, and then they would have just medicated us to keep us. And that's why when Bill came back and said, I found a solution, Dr. Silkworth literally went through the hospital, it gives me chills, between the insane people and us, and pulled each one out and said, you come with me, you come with me, you come with me, and then tried it with them. And they walked free.
Yeah. I did not know that, by the way.
Yeah.
I just knew that he let Bill go talk to patients.
Yes.
And I love that, he writes that he really didn't recognize him, and he treated him 3 times. Like, that seems hard to believe. But so I could read some of that, but I'm going to go to the very first thing that stuck with me.
Awesome.
And why I always read it when I speak at any meeting. And it's on page 26.
Okay.
XX 26, right?
Awesome. Go for it.
Okay. And so, of course, this is just in the middle of this chapter, so there's a lot before and after, but this is what stuck with me. It says, we believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving, which is explained obviously further in the book, but I stuck with that because I would call what I had a craving that never stopped.
Yeah.
Right. We now know it's a mental obsession, right?
Right.
But the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all.
Any form, which means
any form. And I also use that for me, that it was beyond alcohol.
Right. Because that means you can't have, so I work in a pharmacy and alcohol has a national drug code, an NDC number. So we're talking about a drug. Alcohol is a drug. Both of our co-founders did drugs in their story.
Yeah, thank you.
And this is when I stop right here and tell the woman I'm working with, that means you can't take cough medicine that makes you go night-night when you're having a hard time. If you're on antidepressants, you can't take 2 or 3 if you're having a hard day. You can't take anything that you know you should not take because it tells us we're allergic in any form.
In any form. Yep. So then this is the part of the sentence that really got me. So these allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit, and found they cannot break it, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. So to me, that was explaining unmanageability.
And that feeling in your chest.
Explaining powerlessness too, by the way.
Right, where like everything feels so overwhelming. Like the voicemails and the mail and this person asking about it, where life became too much.
Yeah. And I love their reliance upon things human. To me, that meant, my friend can't help me, right? My boss can't help me. My parents can't help me. My boyfriend can't help me. Nobody can help me. But we know that's not entirely true, but I get at what the crux of what he is stating here. So the problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve was where I was sitting in the hospital.
And you could relate to that.
Yeah, I had problems out the wazoo and I had no way to solve them.
And what they're talking about right here is the physical aspect of the disease, that when you put the allergic type that they're talking about is an allergy just means to have an abnormal reaction to something that regular people have. So I'm allergic to dairy. Are you able to drink dairy?
Yes.
Okay. When I drink dairy, I want to die and I'm in the bathroom for like 3 days.
Right. No.
When you drink dairy, no issue, right? So when my sponsor eats a mango, she goes into an anaphylactic shock, and if she doesn't get an EpiPen, she dies. When I eat a mango, I just enjoy it. So when they're telling us when we put alcohol in our body, regardless of the form, that our bodies behave in an abnormal way that requires us to have another drink.
Yes, and sets up this phenomenon of craving.
I didn't know that. I thought that everybody partied like I did because I only hung out with people that partied like I did.
Right, and you get I was so isolated at the end because I knew what I was doing, the quantity, that 24 hours a day was not normal. I mean, even the biggest partiers I was with, when I'm calling at 5 a.m. for something.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I normally sleep till 4. Yeah, I'm crazy. And I mean, every scenario that I can come up in my brain for obtaining more of what I need becomes totally normal and relevant. And it's totally insane. And then that's where I was at.
That's the bottom of the page. Will you read that part where it says men and women?
Yeah, but let me do the next paragraph.
Cool.
Really quick.
Perfect. Go. I love that one.
Because it's these 2 paragraphs that
No, go for it.
Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. I think that's the greatest sentence I've ever read.
So what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you?
So to me, frothy meaning, bubbly or of no substance, basically.
Right.
Emotional appeal seldom suffices. To me, that meant all the people that had tried to help me, who seemed very emotionally invested, I guess, the right way. All the people that are like, dude, you don't have to do this. Can't you just stop? Like, that was part of it.
Do you see what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Why can't you, all the words in the world weren't going to change me. And then
because we can't.
the other part was was the crap I told them.
Mm.
All the lies that I would use for rationalization and, denial. So
Yeah.
to me, it's kind of twofold. I don't know that he meant it that way, but that's how I could identify. And then it says,
I love that though, about appeal. It's because someone's begging us. So they're saying,
yeah,
don't you see what you're doing? Do you see
you're killing
what
yourself.
this is? Right. Do you see what this is doing
And
to your
we're like,
family?
no, I'll just carry on. Thank you very
But the
much.
problem is we're so blocked off
Yeah.
and we're so dark and broken that we can't hear it. We don't feel anything.
Right.
Right?
That's why they say, from the God to the gutter, or gutter to God, I'm not sure. It's like you really do have to be in the most bottomless pit of despair.
Right.
I did.
I did
To finally let the light let it in just a little
to
bit.
finally go, I'll do whatever I have to do.
Yeah, to really find that powerlessness. So then it says the message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. That's an interesting phrase.
Because we tell them the truth. So that takes right. In the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, it takes courage to say to someone who's new. I've been at meetings where it's a new person, they introduce themselves. 90% of the people in the room go around saying, welcome, we love you, you're the most important person in the room, keep coming back, 90 minutes, 90 days, don't drink, go to meetings. And I'm sitting there and I'm tapping my feet because I feel that truth bubbling within inside of me, knowing it's now my responsibility since no one else is doing it, to give them the message of depth and weight. And when I do that, I have to say, welcome, I have some bad news for you. And in my experience, when I was where you are sitting, that all those nice things that were well-meaning that everyone just said almost killed me. And that the only thing that was enough for me was to do this work that's super unpleasant. Because if I didn't, I tried killing myself sober. And
I think we want a soft pedal, to new people, because we just desperately want them to keep coming back.
Right.
So,
but I got to tell you, that message almost killed me.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah, I will say, I don't think that's the same for everybody.
It's not.
I mean, I do think for sure there are people that really glom onto that and that helps them. And then they get eventually to a place where they are in pain again so much that they have to do the work. Right. But everybody finds it. I believe this. I believe when the student's ready, the teacher.
100%. But our responsibility as members of Alcoholics Anonymous is to only offer the solution that's in the book. And the book never says one time, and I've read it a couple of times, it never says, you just keep coming back and you'll get better. It actually it just says action, action.
You're absolutely right.
It's uncomfortable.
Right. I mean, it takes you through the steps
Right.
immediately.
I mean, it's uncomfortable. The reality is I didn't want to do this work. If you give me a choice between cute guys with tattoos and smoking and going to meetings and eating cookies and work, I'm going to choose the first choice every time.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true, because we are creatures of.
But here's the thing, Laura. That's the frothy emotional appeal. Even what we say in meetings, well-meaning, loving people who are not trying to harm anyone are saying something that's never going to work if you're really at the place of that alcoholic despair where nothing works.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me, you have children and I have children, and I know that if you gave me the choice, because since we were talking about this before that we started, and I have an AA member in front of them, because we're not going to get involved in their stuff, and my son's about to die of alcoholism, I beg that he will say to them, you have to do the work or you're going to die.
Yeah.
I don't want them to say to my son, just keep coming back and it'll get better, because what if it doesn't?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Scary. It's scary, right?
Yeah. But, I see things like a little differently. I really do.
It's okay, which is why I had you on here. I love different.
Yeah. Because for many people, that method
works
out the gate. Yeah, it works. And for many people, the method out the gate of you better do this work immediately or you're going to die is like, whoa.
Right.
So it's almost like they got to step in and get their feet wet a little bit at a time till the water, is a little nicer. And they kind of wade themselves in. I mean, that's what I did for sure.
Yeah.
I certainly wasn't.
I almost died though in AA. I tried
Yeah.
killing myself sober.
Yeah. That
But
I've never done.
I agree with you that everyone needs a specific approach. And
Mhm.
that's why I don't believe that the big book is a weapon. I believe it's a tool. And that
Right.
I don't believe that it's my responsibility to just hammer it over anyone's head. But I do
Right.
believe
But
it's my
make no
responsibility.
mistake, there is
Yeah.
no other, there's,
Right.
you know, I always say, when they say, you know, well, we don't know, we don't have the answer for everything, you know, somewhere in the book where it says it, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
We know only a little, right?
Right.
But I'm like, yeah, but this is all we do know.
It is. Right.
And this
But
is
it's
all we
not
do
the
know.
only way to get sober. It's not the only way to get sober. It's, you know, we don't have a monopoly on sobriety, but I do need to place what was given to me. And I was given both of those options by people in AA.
Right.
I had a First Step First Year sponsor. And
Right.
because of where I was in my alcoholism, I almost ended up killing myself. And
Yeah.
it's a good reminder to me to hear you saying that some people don't, that message doesn't work for them, which is why I always say to them, like, look, this is not a requirement. Like, you don't
Right.
have to do this. This is
Right.
not something you have to do.
But there
You
are
know?
no other steps given to us.
Right. But I only know what
There's no other method that's given to us. That's what I mean by that.
right.
So at
Exactly.
the end of the day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't want someone to feel like they can't come back to me if I was like, I said this is the only way. I say to them, like, look, I'm here, no judgment. Like, I didn't want to do this work when I got here. You know, try doing no work and maybe you'll be okay. Like, I know
No.
they're not going to be okay, but I can't tell them that.
right, right.
What's next?
Okay, so then it just says, in nearly all cases, so he does leave a little caveat there, in nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. I just love that sentence. I mean, I love these two paragraphs, but, and then it goes right into, you know, if any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line, see the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men, I want to say, and women,
Right.
than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. I love that.
Yeah, and I love that he said, like,
and then
look,
if we skip to the next,
yeah, but I wanted to say one thing about what you just read. I love that Dr. Silkworth is saying, like, look, if you're judging us about what we're saying, why don't you spend a night in this ward with me? And I would like you to take the call from the crying wife and the sad mother, or right? Because when you experience, like, you know, we just talked about in the beginning, once you've experienced something, you can't say to that person, no, that's not real, because he's actually experienced it.
Right. And sadly, you know, alcoholics and addicts, I mean, flat out addicts. There were people addicted to opioids and cocaine long before Alcoholics Anonymous came along.
Right, of course.
So, right. As a matter of fact, Towns Hospital was treating them like alongside just straight up, you know, drinking alcoholics. But, you know, everybody thought this was a moral issue.
Mm-hmm.
We were morally soft.
Yes.
That it was a willpower issue.
Yes.
I mean, people told me that.
They told me, the boyfriend that I was in an open relationship with that pulled me off of the bathroom floor.
Why can't you just stop at a certain point?
Well, what he said to me was he thought because he pulled me off of the bathroom floor when I OD'd and I came back and I got sober, he thought the reason why I was able to stay sober, even after watching all of it, was because I had willpower. And I was like, no.
And I love the phrase in AA that somebody came up with, as sickening as it sounds sometimes to recant to people. Next time you have a case of diarrhea, try willpower.
I love that.
Good luck. You know,
good luck with that. Hold tight.
Yeah, it's gross, but it's true.
I love you. Where are we going to next?
Okay, so then when he you know, so he is now setting the stage, I think, again, for the next 5 chapters, where he's saying, he's breaking down, why do people drink? Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive. I love that, because think about the first great buzz when it
Yes.
finally magic settled in. And I always say I chased that golden
Yep.
glow until I got here.
Yep.
Because it was never exactly the same. It was never so perfect,
Never.
but I surely tried. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false.
Which is what you
So
were
it's
just
telling
saying.
us
You
if
were
you
just
are-
saying that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. If you're an alcoholic, you no longer reasoning, willpower, none of these things are going to work because your brain has been chemically changed,
Yes.
right? Forever. Like the cucumber to the pickle.
Yeah.
Once you're a pickle, you're never going to be a cucumber again, right?
Yeah.
You sat in the brine for too long. There's no walking it back.
And we can't change back.
So then to that, yeah, no, never. And of course, that's every alcoholic's dream. It was mine. Why can't I go back to normal drinking?
Yeah.
Not that I ever really drank normal, but why can't I go to like an acceptable type of insanity?
Yes. A small
Just-
insanity.
It's a midway like manageability, you know?
Yeah.
So it really says to them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. I love that. It's the only normal thing. This has become your normal.
Yeah,
right?
and you
So-
the abnormal becomes normal.
Yes, completely. And along with that, all the things that you will do now become normal. The things that would have been insane and unthinkable are now totally on the table, right? So we break all our own rules, as our beloved Frank Harnicker used to say.
I miss him.
Yeah, I miss him so much. Oh,
Yeah.
it makes me sick. But he was like, we break our own rules.
Yeah.
period.
He said
we-
that there's two types of people in AA, that there are the people that don't like what they've done, and there are the people that don't like what they've become. And
Yeah.
I was both of them. I couldn't look in the
Yeah.
mirror because I hated what I did, but I even more so I didn't like who I became. I became a person who was so cold and cut off.
Yeah. I mean, look, I never killed anybody, but I don't think that was not within my purview at the
Absolutely.
time. I'm
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
I'm totally serious. I was like, if I really need to get somewhere, I might have to try.
Right.
Thank God I never did. But that's what the insanity is it's so entrenched. So then he explains the first time I've ever heard the sentence that they are restless, irritable, and discontented until they can again experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks.
Yep.
Drinks, which they see others taking with impunity. That was another thing that I could so relate to, because my friends who may or may not have been alcoholics, but who certainly their lives were a lot more together than mine. So they were my comparison point. Why could they keep doing what I could no longer do?
Right.
And
Because
that sets you up for what? Resentment. So
right.
you're comparing yourself to somebody outside of yourself, right? And you're coming up short and you're pissed at them because they seem to be able to do what you can't do anymore, and you know it. But then you're like, this isn't really true. Of course I can. I'll do it differently.
Right.
So then we come with all our methods, control. And we are told when we get to treatment or to AA, whichever, that one who must exert control has already lost it. Not something you want to be told.
No.
Like,
And then
back to the
in this
willpower.
part that you're about to read, is like, for me, is the best definition of alcoholism, because it's not about how much we drink or how often we drink. It's about what happens to us in between trying to not drink and drinking.
Yep.
Our mind telling us the lie, the mental obsession, saying it's okay to pick up a drink this one time, or what's the use anyhow. Picking it up, not being able to control it because the physical allergy has been activated, coming to hating ourselves, promising we're never going to do it again,
Yep.
being restless, irritable, and discontent, and then picking it up because our mind tells us it's okay. And then that cycle just again and again and again.
Yeah, it's the hamster on the wheel, or the rat, however you want to look at it. But yeah, so after they have succumbed to the desire again, as many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops. And I will just say this, to me, the phenomenon of craving preceded every drink.
Yeah.
So I get that you pick up and then the cravings that, the phenomenon of craving kicks back in. But what I thought was that I couldn't get my brain to stop
Right.
telling me. Now,
That's
I
the
also
mental
don't have any
obsession.
sobriety.
Right.
Right. The
That's the
mental
mental obsession.
obsession
Yeah.
preceded every drink. And then once I picked up, I could not stop at a reasonable limit because the old adage, it's not the
engine, the caboose.
that gets you, it's the engine. I love that too, by the way.
So
That makes
can I
sense to
share
me.
something with you?
Oh,
So Kevin told me he asked Jim Clare, his sponsor at the time, about the engine and the
I
caboose.
remember Jim
Right.
and Larry.
He thought he was so
from
cool
night
that
and
he
day.
knew about the engine and the caboose. And he said, Jim, look what I heard. And Jim said, you're an idiot. It's not the engine. It's not the caboose. It's the thought in your mind that you could jump on a train track when a moving train is coming and survive. That's your problem. It's your mind.
Yeah.
It's not the alcohol. It's your mind. And what you just said before, right, is that every single time you picked up, it was your mind. Your mind believed the lie. F it, or what's the use anyhow, or I can control it.
And then I physically picked up.
Yes.
And then was proven again, nope. Because that mental, the allergy and the physical craving and, and that's what makes us who we are. That's what makes us different from other people. And he does say never occurs in the average drinker, which goes back to you could be a hard drinker.
Yep.
There's lots of hard drinkers that aren't alcoholics.
Yeah.
Period. And I know a lot of them.
Yes.
But so then this is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery.
And that's in your mind. The psychic change is in your mind. We can't, which is the reason why I take people through the steps, because the steps are the only way that I know how to offer someone a way to get rid of the crap in their mind.
Yeah, it is. It changes your psyche. So this goes back to, do you have, because both has happened for me, where do you believe in that you have to have, and the difference between, why can't I think of the word? A spiritual experience, right? Yeah. Versus a large or long path of spiritual things.
Awakening.
That eventually changed you. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And I had both. Yeah. I definitely had both. I mean, I had the one big one that is when I finally completely surrendered, which was not until sometime in June of '88, where I was like in the closet of the basement of my parents' house that I was, living back in again, and having used again and in secret and the whole bit, and realizing, oh my God, I did this again. Of course, I knew, like, when I started the little spree, what did I think was going to be different, right? That's our insanity. But so I'm literally, in a closet so nobody can hear me. And I opened the doors of the closet and crawled onto the broken waterbed and picked up my big book and was trying to read it like that would make me sober. And I said, oh my God, please help me. And I had prayed. I've been praying since, not, I would say not with 100% effort, but I'd certainly tried it, right? And I'd been going to a lot of meetings, and I was still relapsing and not telling anybody, even worse, right? So that for me was definitely a spiritual experience I never used after that day. But
I love the imagery of the broken waterbed.
Yeah, it was broken. It had no heater. It held water. It had no heater. I was in the basement, and I had a little space heater on a little, like, cheap wicker table next to me, so I wasn't sleeping on a frigid bed. I mean, it was so stupid. And that the small set of spiritual awakenings, I would say I had been having, right? But they weren't enough to make this complete psychic change.
Yeah.
And then that experience of, like, I don't even know how to explain it, of what happened. It wasn't like I saw God or anything. It wasn't that at all. It was that the phenomenon of craving was taken from me. Period. Yeah. I never had that same.
Your mind no longer told you that. Your mind no longer said to you that lie, that obsession.
Yeah. But the difference was for me, and this is just my story, is that it wasn't like I never had a craving again. It wasn't like I never thought about it again.
Right.
The difference was that nonstop intensity of like,
Yes.
I could not get away from it no matter what. So then I would use,
Yes.
because, that's what I would do. And then the whole thing started all over again and in secret, which is terrible. That was the difference. And those two things for me combined then got me to climb out of that literal basement. And when I went back to AA again, something was different, and I wasn't fighting myself, all day, every day. My natural tendency had just been taken from me,
But I think that's because you were given the gift of desperation and you were so
Oh.
desperate in that basement. I love
Yeah.
that imagery that you painted of you in that closet and crawling out to that broken waterbed and searching in the book, because you
Yeah.
knew that that's where the solution was, but you didn't know how to get it. And I'm
Right.
so grateful for your time today. Unfortunately, we're almost out of it, but I
Yeah.
love that you shared that, because I'm never going to see this part again without picturing you doing that, because it takes what it takes for each of us to get to a place where we are like, I can't live like this anymore.
Right.
And-
And the I can't live like this anymore was always present for the last 2 years. Right. And I used
Right.
to always say, this is what I said to my dad, my beautiful father, at the intervention that my family held for me that I didn't show up for the first time, obviously, but it happened again the next day. Right. And I said to my father, and I find this fascinating, I said, it was the first time I'd been honest with anybody. Like, my dad was like, are you doing this? No, no, no. And then, they finally like broke me down. And my dad said, look, you're either going to go to treatment or you got to go, like on the street. And I, there's no way I was doing that. And I said, Dad, I just want the want to go away.
Mm.
I said those words. That was the most honest I could be with anybody ever. Because for me, that's what it was, a nonstop want.
The powerless. That's the powerless.
Yeah, but so when you read the book and you've got all these things that match that.
Right, because we didn't know the language. Right, we didn't know the language.
Right. I'm like, why am I like this? Why am I the only person I know really like this? And I wasn't.
You're not. There's a lot of us.
Right.
Will you read that last paragraph, the next paragraph before we go? I want you to read this, the one on the other hand, before we go.
Yep. On the other hand, as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, which are, what we would call earth people, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
Once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, going back to those other two paragraphs, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, the only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. And those few simple rules are not few, they're 12.
There's 12.
But, or you can, also, or you can use the 4 absolutes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not as detailed, obviously, but if you honestly start with honesty, you go a long way.
And you know what, though? But what I love about that paragraph that you just read is after that darkness and that death and that desperation is there's hope. And the hope is if you do the work, there's hope.
Yeah.
I love you, Laura. Thank you so much for your time.
I love you, Carly. I'm really glad you did this.
Me too.
I'm like, what do I have to be nervous about? I have been doing this for 32 years.
Just 32 years. I want to thank you for staying here when it's hard and when it's messy, because if you didn't, I don't know where I would go.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank you because you're really quite a bright light, and you're really trudging the road, girl. So
thank you.
Don't trudge it, but you're doing it in a different way, and you help a ton of people.
Thank you. Give that hubby of yours a hug from me.
I will.
Love
and
you.
Yours. And
yeah,
those kids.
He's pretty cute. He's not one of us, thank God.
He's very cute. I see him on the Facebook. Very cute. And kids are beautiful.
Thanks,
Carly.
Love you. For any listeners who would like to get deeper insight into my story, I just released my memoir, Seconds and Inches. It was a dream of mine for decades to write my memoir, and while I do not believe in mixing money and AA, I just wanted to share with the world that I did this accomplishment, and it can be found wherever you normally purchase books, paperback, audio, or digital. I wish you an awesome day. Thank you.